Hello.
Yeah, that's your name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's some deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah,
You know,
he's like,
he's up there slapping it, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
I know.
How did you say his name?
Hervé Villagers.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. It's that time of year. It's that time of year where we all need to be thinking about, do we have everything we need to hit the woods? Chances are you don't, and if you think you do, you probably could use some more. So how about you go over to thehuntworks.com and check out all the incredible products these guys are carrying. This is a great family, local store. Dan and Steve Dunnigan, a couple hardworking sumbitches. They are now carrying archery equipment, everything from bows to arrows to broadheads, quivers, you name it. So on top of all the great tree stands and box blinds that they're carrying, they're now a full-on archery dealer, and really recommend that you check these guys out for your next big purchase. Head over to thehuntworks.com to see what they've got for sale, or if you're local in the Rochester area, head on over to their store in East Rochester on Dispatch Drive and check them out. They are on social media, The Huntworks, and also online, like I said. And if you purchase anything online, you can use promo code FEEDIN'Em to get 5% off. And that's FEED, FEEDIN, INUM, 5% off. Feed 'em. The record
Hey, Big Willie with you. Got another episode. I believe we're at 193, episode 193. My guest today is Billy. And it's on the 28th of September, and we're getting ready to head down to the Wellsville Rod and Gun Club for the
It's so
NDA event down there, put on by the Upper Genesee River NDA branch. So Billy stopped by here before we head down. We're going to do a little podcast and recap of his September high country mule deer hunt. So, Billy, welcome to your podcast.
Oh, hi, Dad. It's been a little while.
It has.
It's kind of been freeing a little bit, but I'm also starting to feel a little
left out.
Like I'm left out. I have no control because I don't have equipment because you've commandeered it from me.
This is true.
So like, what am I to do? You know?
Yeah.
I'm lost.
And you're moving, so it's hard to catch up.
I'm on
with
the
you.
move.
So I can't believe I actually have you sitting here live in person. So
I'm here. I'm in
You're
color.
here. So
I'm well rested and freaking fired up. So
I can tell. The podcast is probably far more boring with me hosting.
no, it's very informative. Nobody's telling me they don't like it, so either they're not listening or they.
We're getting a lot of listens. I've
Yeah?
been on Libsyn looking. So.
Have you?
Yeah.
What are our numbers at? I haven't logged on in
It's actually spiking up with me hosting. We've improved immensely.
Is
So,
that right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's your updates.
Could be.
So
Speaking of which,
yeah.
Southern Zone Archery opens on Sunday, October 1st. So we've got that going.
We
and
do. It's going to be 77 degrees. Perfect day to go
too
shoot
warm.
a deer in the guts.
Too warm next
Just kidding.
week. But
I didn't want to do that.
no, but some people will.
They
We
will
get
shoot 'em
out,
in
and
the guts.
that's great. And hopefully they don't shoot them in the guts. But the gang went up to the Adirondacks. I did not join them, and
For the bear hunt?
for the early bear, and they had a great time. But it was amongst the worst conditions they'd seen as far as the lack of sign of food and the bears. So
Really?
yeah, I just
That's weird because we were there vacation and there was cherries everywhere.
well, and it's one of those deals. I think that perhaps conditions were such where where we hunt usually,
Yeah.
that the cherries didn't yield. It's just like one hill will have oaks that are yielding and another one won't. So they didn't have any cherries, and therefore they didn't have any bears because the bears were probably
where the cherries and
where the
beech
cherries
nuts were. Sure.
Yeah, but they had a great time, of course. And coming up October 14th, we got the Northern Zone opener for muzzleloader. So the gang will be up there again for that.
Are you going?
I was all set to go, and I have a funeral that I have to go to. It's actually up in the North Country there for Kathy Harrigan. Did you
Oh,
know
they're
she
doing that.
passed?
Well, yeah, but they waited a while.
Yeah. So they're doing it up there in their hometown, which is north of there towards Watertown. So we're going to go up there, and I'm attending that funeral and doing a little bit of a eulogy and stuff.
Sure.
So I had to bid off the muzzleloader hunt, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that weekend's full of funerals. Actually, I got Ricky's dad's funeral on Friday, and
Yeah, I seen he passed. That's sad.
and then after that we
Mayor.
had, yep. He was an awesome guy. So yeah, life is short, man. Life is short.
Realizing that more and more every day.
Yeah.
You got to just enjoy what's important. And
Yep. But season's upon us. You see the buck. That was a pretty nice buck. He's a new guest on our property.
Today?
Did you see him? Yeah, this morning.
no, I've been working, just grinding.
Yeah,
just
well,
freaking sweating.
that's my dopamine dump. To jump on the phone and see what's running around up there. I may even just give up hunting and watch them.
Yeah, it's more fun because when we go up, the second we go up there and start hunting them, it's gonna be, they're gonna be gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And but there was a nice buck. He come right across the middle meadow and went over and checked on the apple trees. And it's not one of the other bucks that we've had there. It looked like
No shit.
better than them. So he was a nice buck. I'm sure Jimmy's aware of it.
It's so exciting to see what has just transpired at our property.
Oh my
really,
God.
both properties.
Yeah.
But Naples is just the volume of deer on our property. It's been what 3 years we've had the Cuddy Link system,
Yeah, all of three.
but like 2 years
Well, maybe
ago,
4 because we were tracking Frank and Beans on that, weren't we initially, or no?
Yeah, we had Frank on there.
Yeah, so 4 years.
This will be the 4th year.
Which, interruption, time to go down a rabbit hole. There's a guy that bought that old house across the street from us,
Yes.
and he's fixing it up or whatever. So he comes over yesterday to meet me. Nice young fellow, probably about your age. Anyways, he tells me he was asking about the logs we had stacked up there and wondering if we were going to sell a load of timber or something. Anyways, but he goes, we got talking, deer hunting, of course, and he goes, I got to tell you, he goes, like 3-4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, he goes, my dad and I are doing a job in Honeoye, and we're driving home from work, and you ought to see the buck that come out of your property here, and cross the road and went up. And he goes, I slammed on the brakes, jumped, dropped tine and everything. He goes, unbelievable. I said, was his name Frank?
Did he have his name tag on?
Last name N Beans? Because I go, yeah, he was harvested about then 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So. But he had seen him. He said, I'd never
There's-
seen anything like it. But
Everybody in that area knew about that deer because he crossed the road all the time.
I can't believe he never got hit.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But anyways, where were we going?
I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
Oh, just how cool it is to see how many.
Oh, yeah.
Just all the food plot stuff. We've talked about it on here, but we're trying to just do more up there and not be tilling the ground all the time and overseeding with clover and with rye and things like that in the fall.
Yep.
And just the volume of deer 12 months out of the year that we're holding on the property is like.
But the food plots, it's not just the food plots. What we're seeing is the ongoing successional growth that Mike has created.
Right.
When we do
Yeah.
these clear cuts, because a lot of those are I see when you clear cut an area, I see the deer like not in there as much that first year, and I think we mess it up so much they have to have time to adjust and learn the area. But I'll tell you right now, they're just like they're crawling all over the place up there, and I think it's a combination. We've got great bedding,
Mm-hmm.
and that we've created, Mike's created, and then the food plots, and when you till the food plot, you got 6 weeks, 8 weeks of nothing, right? So essentially, there's only 6-8 weeks in the summer. You lose that summer feed. So I really think there's something to be said for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and even if you did nothing
Mhm.
and just mowed it or whatever, the deer would be out there feeding. It's just like
But it is almost majority of our pictures are all daytime pictures there.
middle of the day.
Which tells you that the deer live there.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
coming there at night to eat. It's just
No,
all
4
day.
o'clock in the afternoon, like that early antlerless season that we had. We didn't hunt it, but we could have. You could have sat in Hotel Harvey. Just go sit there, and you're almost. I can't even imagine unless you screwed up.
You would have.
You're going to get a deer.
Yeah.
They're there all day long. They're there at sunrise. They're there at 9. They're there around noon. They're there at 2:30. They're at 4:30.
Yep.
So it's really cool to watch.
It is progress.
You see that doe? I sent that picture last night. Boy, she was a
Honker.
honker.
We're bringing a doe That's what we're going to do this year. We're going to do a doe contest.
Nice.
Pertinier doe contest. Don't really have any. I mean, it may just
No
be for
details
fun.
other than that.
Yeah. But I think what we're going to do, I think we may not do like any entries or nothing. But I think like as far as financial, I think it's just going to be a fun thing with anybody who wants to participate. And what we've been talking about it for years, we want to do measurement from tip of ear to tip of ear. So like pull the ears out. How wide is the ears?
Yep.
We want to do from like
You got the snout.
right snout, and then do weight.
Yep.
And I think then we'll just have people
Gross
report
weight.
the size, and just have some fun with it. And whoever has the biggest doe, couple will do top 3 or something.
Yeah.
Just have fun with it.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, we all like shooting does, and number two, it's really fun to try to see who can get the biggest doe
Yeah.
because they are challenging to hunt. I mean, you shoot a 120-pound doe, you're doing something.
You're doing something.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one we ever had, Fat Edna, that we brought through the shop when we were butchering. I think Joel had shot that over in Mendon. It was like 132 pounds. And usually when people tell me
That's
I
a
shot a
huge
doe,
doe.
it was 150 pounds, I'm calling bullshit.
Bullshit. Yeah.
You know, unless you're in some other part of the country or farther up north or
Right.
something. Around here, I mean, we've put hundreds of deer up, you know, over the last, 40 years.
A big doe is 100 to 112
40.
pounds, 110 pounds.
You break 100 on a doe, that's a nice, like you say, 110,
Yeah.
112, 115. You hit a 120, that's an eyebrow raiser.
Old
isn't it?
split ear last year, she was a nice.
Oh, she was gorgeous. Can't believe you shot her.
I shot her right in the face. Yep.
Mm.
Flipped her right over backwards.
Yep.
She tasted good.
Well, she was an old one.
Yeah.
She was an old doe.
So
Yeah, do you want to cover some sort of like updates or anything, or was
Well,
that it, the doe thing?
I mean, the simple update, I guess, just podcast wise, I haven't been on here for a podcast in a month or two. I don't know.
Yeah, a couple months.
It's been a while. I think any father can relate. I think anybody who's working right now in the business world or anything, like the pace of life has just picked up. The pace of business has picked back up. So, and I've, over the last couple of years, with everything in our line of work and student transportation, everything that's evolved with the regulations and mandates and pushing towards zero emission vehicles. I mean, this has like become my new passion project. The hunting and conservation, it's still a huge part of my life, and it'll always be. That will never go away. But like right now, like my calling, where my energy is needed to help advocate and to help educate and do things, like it's in my professional career, which is pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
And like, cause that's what that's what we do. I mean,
Right.
that's our family business. We
Yeah.
bleed yellow.
You're the third generation.
Yeah. So I'm really enjoying work right now. Like there's days that are frustrating, but I'm working towards trying to be part of a solution and trying to help all these school districts that I deal with navigate through just completely uncharted waters.
Yeah.
And trying to handle a government mandating you to do something that's never been done before.
Yeah.
So
and your
it is
title
just
is like when I was corporate sales manager there at Leonard Bus, I had salesmen, and they've changed that up, and you're now a transportation advisor.
right.
And the last couple of years, I mean, now more than ever, that is a very well suited
Yeah.
title for what you do.
I was talking to a new director yesterday. She's been in education her whole life, but she's new in the role. And she told me, she's like, I got to tell you, she's like, I've dealt with tons of salesmen over my career in different roles in IT and education and everything else within the school system. She's like, I've never worked with a salesman that didn't make me feel like I was trying to be sold something. And I'm like, well, that's the whole point. I go, that's why I'm an advisor. I go, I know that if I do a good enough job and I support you well enough that you will probably buy something from me. But I'm playing the long game here. Like I'm
Right.
looking at your situation. I have resources that I can provide you to help you navigate through this. And I'm willing to play that long game. And fortunately, and I said this to Frank the other day, my boss at work, and I said to him, I'm like, thank you for the company giving us the opportunity as salespeople, but to be an advisor and not feel the pressure of if I'm not hitting some sales number today that I don't make an income Friday.
Right.
Because people can sense that the second you walk in the door.
Oh, yeah.
That you're here trying to sell something because you need to make a commission. And yes, I'm commissioned, but I'm also living on a salary that I can support myself and my family and my expenses on a weekly basis and not have to worry about that.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's where it's been really nice to have you. You know, you've started your own podcast with NIAP Talks, and you're doing a great job with that. And it's been really nice to have you support. You know, trying to keep this flowing a little bit, and we'd like to do a lot more going into deer season. And you know, I've had some really great opportunities. Some people that have reached out to me about wanting to do podcasts, whether it be some different brands, some other, you know, one of the guys that's doing some of the back end media stuff for Big Woods Bucks reached out and wanted to offer to have us have a couple of their team members on to do some podcasts. Like, I'm all for that. I just got to figure out the flow of life and the flow of time. And, you know, you're more than capable of having a lot of those conversations. I want to be part of them if I can. But just trying to figure out the scheduling of all this. And I think that people can relate, you know, and any other podcaster that's out there, it's like, and I've said it before, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, like, family's number one. And I've really tried to stay as laser focused on that as I can. Family's number one, work's number two, and then my hobbies are number three. Yep. And, you know, I feel really good about where I'm at personally right now, trying to balance all that, because it's a lot. And having a kid in kindergarten now and a daughter who's in pre-K and, you know, a wife that did an Ironman last year. It's like, you know, anybody who's ever experienced any of these things, you know that, like, you have to set something down. And it's actually been, like, it feels really good to me to know that, like, the podcast is still there and people are still interested, but, like, life goes on if I don't get an episode out this week. And you gotta, you know, it like warms my heart. I was listening to a podcast the other day with a couple of younger guys. They're like my age and maybe a few years younger. And like they're out of Buffalo. It's called Buffalo Happy Hour. I really enjoy their podcast. They got to be pretty well known in the Buffalo area. They do whiskey reviews is like their thing. So it's a pretty entertaining show. They went out. I heard about them because they went to Windy Brew and did an interview with Russ. And the one of the guys just had his first child like 6 weeks ago, and they were doing like 2-3 episodes a week, video content. Like, their stuff was amazing. And he's like, they had checked out for a whole month. They were just gone. Nothing on social media, nothing anywhere. And it was like I almost was like driving down the road and I was like, yes, somebody else is feeling the pain, because it's like, you can't, if this isn't bringing you home income, what are you doing?
It's got to take a back seat.
It has to.
Like, if you have to put something down,
right,
the podcast is something to back away from a little bit. But that doesn't mean you still don't have interest.
Put on top of it, it's like, how many hours did I spend this winter and this summer working over at the farm logging? Like, we've literally cut like 45 to 50 face cord. And it may be more than that. The logs still aren't all out of there. We've got people coming and buying logs. We're not chunking it and splitting it. Dallas found some people that just buy the logs, and they're doing the work, which is actually like pretty freaking slick. We got the wood out, then they just come with their flatbeds and or the trailers, just take it out of there. Yeah. But, like, holy Christ. Like, I can't believe how much wood it was the two of us, how much wood we cut.
Yeah.
And that was doing it when we had an hour here or 2 hours there. And I think we had like maybe 3 days that we got like full 8 hours. Him and I just took a day off of work and just went and just worked. It's like, holy shit. And you see so it's like, you gotta, like, I had to prioritize things.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah. Tell me about the bunk silo. I saw, did you help set the
So that was my first ever.
What, were you guys just helping out, the cousins there?
Brad Allmeter that owns Breezy Hill Dairy, so they're the ones that bought Dan and Audrey's farm, all the tillable around what we call the farm. And so he always asks for help when they cover the bunk, because it's a big project. Yeah. So he always sends messages, and it's always like, you know, he'll send a message at like 2:30 in the afternoon. We're covering the bunk tonight. And it's like, dude, it's like I'm in Syracuse. You know, it's like I can't be there in an hour. Or I've already got stuff planned with the family. But yesterday morning, he sent a message out to a whole bunch of phone numbers, and it's like, you know, I saw Brian and Dallas are both on there, and he was just ahead of the game, and we've had such great weather that they'd cut, I think it was 3 or 4 days worth of harvesting. Were able to fill that whole bunk with corn, and so he knew that they were going to be able to do it last night, and so we met over there at 5:00, and I've never.
Looked like there was quite a crew.
Brad's like, this is the most people that have ever shown up, and I was like, well, I mean, I had a little bit of a notice, you know, but it was quite the experience, and it felt really good to go over there and help with that, because they've been amazing to us as people that came in and bought the farm. Like, they like that we're there. They like that we're around. We're able to still use the barns for storage of things. Like it's amazing.
Nice setup,
like he's not like, and I've talked to him about it, and I've told him how much I appreciate it. And I'm like, if you need help, just let me know. Like, I need a little bit of advance, but
Right.
If you need help, let me know. And to be able to return that favor to him for what he allows us to do 365 days a year, it's like.
Yeah, I figured that's what was going on.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience.
So I mean, just that whole process. I mean, I told Sarah last night because the Kirsches, they were dairy farmers and they would cover bunk, like that's what they would do that, and they didn't have side by sides, they didn't have tractors. With this operation, which everything that farm does is freaking organized, thought out. It was amazing.
Business,
so
yeah.
we covered that whole bunk in 1 hour. And how many tires? That's thousands of tires.
yeah.
I don't even know. But they had, so you roll the tarp over this way, and then there was a tarp that you drag down the middle, and then it opened up and you go over. So it was 3 layers of tarp.
Okay.
And then they had this black mat, almost like what you put down on your garden, like that black matting, but thick like canvas matting. And that's on a roll, and that's the length of the bunk.
Yeah.
And they roll it down the middle. And then they run 2 side-by-sides to drive it back and forth. And they've got a forklift or 2 guys down with, or I guess it was only 1 guy with a skid steer. And you got all the tires lined up, freaking thousands of tires, whatever it is. And they got 2 side-by-sides going nonstop, backing up as fast as Brad's like, if you're driving the side-by-side, you're driving it like you stole it. He goes, we're not here all day. And it's just, you're just going as fast as you can, driving backwards with the back of the side-by-side full of the tires that the skid steer puts in the back, picks up the tongs, puts it in there, backs it off.
And just to clarify, they're not like a whole tire.
They're
It's a
cut in half.
sidewall. It's the sidewalls of the tires.
Yeah, and just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it was just nonstop. Just as soon as you turn around, there's another side-by-side there. And there was probably 10 of us throwing tires. But, we just crushed it. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was something.
So he's like, we're probably going to, because of the stretch of weather, we're probably going to do it again next Wednesday, and that'll be their last bunk to fill before winter. So I was like, sign me up. If I know a week in advance, I can say, Sarah's got no issue with me going to do that stuff. It's just when I call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm like, farmer needs help. It's like, she wouldn't be pissed, but it's like, it's not easy on anybody.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, busy.
Yeah. So what we should probably, because we do have a timeline here to get down to our event, but
I wanted to give a recap of the hunt.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about your hunt. You went, I don't know, September 7th, I think you headed out?
We left, I think the evening of September 7th.
Yep. So
after work. So we went, I don't know if I really talked about it much on here, but we all went out west. I think everybody that follows us on social would have seen the pictures in that, but I got fortunate. I drew the high country rifle tag for this unit.
Now, did you have points accumulated for that?
Yeah, I had 6 years I'd been putting in for points. I hadn't been putting in for that tag. I've been accumulating points over 6 years. And now that tag, they used to give out 15. Now they only give out 13 for the whole unit.
Wow.
And 2 of those tags are for non-residents. So I was one of 2 non-residents that drew that tag for.
Now, if you hadn't won the draw, are your points gone, or do you retain the points?
You retain them. So
okay.
First choice I went the rifle tag. Second choice I went muzzleloader. Brian went first choice rifle, second choice muzzleloader. So he didn't get the tag.
Did you do it opposite that you did?
No.
You did
we
the
both
same.
applied because one of us wanted to get that tag, but
right.
when we both had 6 points based off of previous draws, you needed 5 to 6 points to draw that tag.
Okay, gotcha. So you both did it figuring one of you would get it.
One of us was going to get it.
Okay.
And so I ended up getting lucky, and my name was drawn. I couldn't believe it, find out back in June or whatever. And and Brian drew the muzzleloader tag there, and then AJ and Tard were on the other side. AJ had drawn a deer tag muzzleloader, and Tard just went over-the-counter archery elk.
Did AJ have points? Did he need points to
No,
to
that
get
tag you can
you apply for it.
You can. So when the way that you apply in some of these units doesn't work in every unit because some units you do need points to draw the tag, but in this particular unit that we go, you can go first choice preference point, second choice tag, and you can actually draw the tag with 0 points. and you still accumulate. And I don't think a lot of people know that. It's kind of a nice little secret, because that's how we've been continuing to go, but we're still building points because we're drawing with the second choice, not with the first choice. So you don't only use your points if you go first choice. That's just the way the system.
If you're successful.
If you're successful,
choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Brian still got a point, and he got a tag to go out.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So, and then my buddy Chris Lawrence, he's been getting back into hunting, and he wanted to experience that adventure. So he wanted to come with, and I was like, absolutely, that'd be great to have you in camp and just have another person there to help, pending stuff starts hitting the ground.
Yeah.
So Chris and I rode out together. We drove my truck, and Brian and AJ and Tard all rode together in Tard's truck, and we
you made good time too.
We made outstanding time.
Well, you had even considering the run in with a lawman.
Yeah, Chris tried to get a driving award in Indiana, but the officer liked my mustache, and he had a nice mustache too, and we bonded over that. And he let us go.
He let you go.
Yeah.
with a stern warning.
Yeah, he's like, just slow down. I was sleeping. I was in the passenger seat. Chris is driving. He had been driving for maybe an hour and a half, and it's 75 or 70 mile per hour speed limit on that highway. I don't remember which highway that is across Indiana, but Chris is driving 80, and it was pouring rain. He shouldn't have been driving 80, but he's driving 80. And
if it was all clear,
the cop wouldn't have had a problem.
No,
but Chris is freaking ripping at 80 miles an hour, and Chris was in the passing lane. The cop was over on the shoulder, had somebody pulled over, and I don't know how long he had been following Chris. I don't know, but he had caught up to Chris, and then he pulled us over right before the toll booth where we were leaving Indiana. Like we almost made it, buddy. We were right at the border, but yeah. So the trip, the trip out.
It's amazing. Like when I went out, we going on the way out there, you'd see it be 70 or whatever, 75 speed limit, but we're like, if we go 78 or 80, that's enough, right? We were doing 80, people are walking by us.
Yeah.
Or if we're doing 78 or something. So we, when in Rome, right? So I mean, man, we were getting it. But it was all nice weather.
Chris and I left like an hour and a half after those guys did. And I couldn't believe it, because, you figure two people, you might stop a couple more times, or, you might. And I felt like we stopped quite a bit, but we were in Denver we left here at 6:15-ish. We were in Denver by 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
2:30. We were eating lunch at whatever the hell restaurant we were at. And
that's counting the hour. Well, we
lose 2 hours. So what is really 4
like 4
o'clock?
o'clock.
Right.
In 22 hours, you're there.
Yeah.
And you only got a couple more hours to get up in.
Yeah. So, and we got into Colorado, eastern Colorado, and, we're calling the other guys, talking to them and stuff. And, what mile marker are you at? Yada, yada. And so we called Brian, and they had stopped at a Walmart, like the first Walmart that you can get when you come into Colorado, and, to get the licenses for AJ and Tard, and they're in there getting their license taken care of, and I'm like, Chris, we're not that far behind them. So then they get going, and we're driving again, and I call them because we were trying to figure out where to meet up for food, and I, like, to your point, the speed limit's 75 maybe. I don't remember what the speed, but we're driving it might have been 70, but anybody who's driven across eastern Colorado on I-70, or I guess it's 75 probably, or 80.
Where you were, I went in 70.
But it's it's just freaking straight, and there's nothing. And we were driving 88 miles an hour because I wanted to see if I could catch them. And I had my truck set 88, and we're just freaking hauling. And Brian's like, yeah, we're at mile marker such and such. I'm like, dude, we're 2 miles behind them. And you can see in some of those spots, you can see that
2
far.
miles. Yeah.
So I'm looking out there, and I see just this white Ram that you could it was a white vehicle. And it's as far as I could see, and I'm like, that's got to be them. And we're just driving as fast as we can. And we caught up to them, and we were not far from Denver, but we did catch them. It was funny, but I couldn't believe we made up an hour on them on the trip out there. But as far as this trip, the travel, the logistics, everything, everybody's heard the stories about our stuff in the past. I don't have to knock any wood. It's over. The trip is over.
It was good.
It was freaking flawless. Everything went really, really well. So I don't know if that's just that's just the way the trip went, or if we're getting better at the logistics of it and planning and not trying to bite off more than we can chew. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we stayed in town Friday night and had a nice meal, and that was Chris and Brian and I, because we went in together, and Rob Herman met up with us. He came in and stayed at the hotel with us that night so that we could all just go right up to the trailhead in the morning and not have to coordinate and everything else. So it was nice. Like, we had the four of us together hanging out for a little bit there Friday night. Had a good night
How
rest.
come Tard and AJ went in that Friday night?
Because they're men.
Okay, they're
not scared.
Yeah.
Brian was scared.
Yeah. Well, he's a slight fellow.
He's a little twink, I like to call him. You put 60 pounds on his back, and he's bitching after 4 miles. But I mean, it's a lot. Like AJ, they both said like that was a lot for them to pack. And
it was probably smart to go and get out and you could get a meal and get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, you're sleeping in a truck.
Right, you're living in a truck for 24
hours. And you might get
hours.
3 or 4 hours of sleep in 24 hours. It's like, it's not ideal. We did that. I've done that before. It's not fun. And it's not. Just spend the night.
Yeah.
And in our situation, it obviously didn't affect the outcome of the trip. So
yeah. So you hiked in Saturday morning.
So Saturday morning we got up, we didn't have, it was up before, we were up at 4. We were up before there was any food or anything at the hotel. So we were at the trailhead and physically hiking by Big Al's here.
Oh, okay.
Physically hiking by 5:30 in the morning. So we were up into where we could be. Potentially something comes across and you see it. Like we could at shooting light. We were in there.
You're in there. And you said you saw some on the hike.
Yeah, we saw some. We came up to like one of the first avalanche shoots, and there was like 5 or 6 deer. It was does and a spike horn were out feeding in there. So like you got the blood pumping a little bit. Like there's deer in here. Yeah. And then we just basically Saturday ended up being just kind of a get ourselves in there, settle in, and we wanted to go check out. There's a high country lake that when we were in the same place in 2017, we never got up there, so we just wanted to kind of go put our eyes on it because on a map it looks amazing, and we went up there and it is.
Is that where the pictures were? And you guys all went for a swim?
Yeah.
Man, that looked gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Was there cutthroat in there?
Yeah, Rob caught a big fish in there, a big cutthroat. Yeah.
Nice.
And I mean, just amazing. But this area, like the recreation, is just.
Yeah, you see other people on.
There's like, I mean, there's people everywhere. You look around, so that the deer aren't there. There's goats there, but the deer are in that little up in that area.
Goats don't seem to mind that.
They don't mind people at all.
Yeah,
they just hang out, harass people. But yeah. So we spent the day getting camp set up. We were about 4 miles in where our base camp was to start. Everything got set up. Everything was good. Beautiful campsite. Creek there, so we had good water.
Where you usually camped, or did you have a new
spot? It was just up a little bit from where we camped the last time. This is like halfway up the valley.
Okay.
So we didn't commit to going all the way up. There's an area above us that we wanted to investigate, which Brian and Rob went and checked out, and it's freaking aggressive to get in there. And they got a good ways up in there, and they did see some animals. They heard some elk and seen they heard some deer blow out on them. But the area is just like. It looks amazing. It is amazing, but to get in there, like you're like risking your life to get in there, and like we're not risking our lives to get into some of these spots. It can be done. I know there's guys that do it, but it's just not.
You're not one of them.
No, we're looking to go home to our wives and kids and not have
in one piece
limbs torn off and everything else.
Yeah.
So that was Saturday was kind of a settle-in adventure day. Check out some stuff. We did hunt. We went and sat the last hour over a couple avalanche shoots. Just. You never know what might come out. That seems to be in this area where your best opportunities are going to be. And so then Saturday evening, we're kind of hanging around camp, had a nice, had our freeze-dried meals and just having a good time, had a couple drinks and came up with a game plan. So Rob was hunting with his bow for elk and Brian had the muzzleloader deer tag, and they both wanted to go up straight up from camp to this sanctuary, we call it, to go kind of check this out. It's about probably almost 1,000 feet, 800 to 1,000 foot elevation gain up to this spot. And it's like once you get up there, there's some high country. There's like 3 small lakes, and it's just looks amazing. It's the same spot when Danny and I were out there in 2017 that we camped up top and looked over the top. I mean, we know there's game in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Chris and I's plan was that Chris and I leave camp and we hike up the 3-mile hike up to the back of the valley to go up to where we shot the deer in 17 to just see, what's going on up there. Is there other tents? Is there other hunters?
Yeah.
What's the pressure going on? Just
This
to try
is
to
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
So you're going to do kind of like an observation.
Yeah, like we just want to see get the lay of the land,
Yeah,
like what's
yeah.
all going on here.
Yep.
And the weekends are typically very busy in here because it's close to towns
Yep.
and it gets a lot of traffic. People come in, camp on Saturday night, and then go out Sunday during the day.
Yep.
And then Monday, the hunting that's when we kind of vision the hunt starting is Monday. So here we are. It's Sunday morning. I'm up. I'm excited. So I'm up early, not too early, but I'm up at like 4:45, 4:30. And Chris is not. He's like, I'm like, come on, we gotta get going, And so I'm up and I do my morning dookie, and I'm all situated. I'm settled. I got everything good, right? Pack's set, everything's good, and I'm like watching my watch because I figured we could do that hike in an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. I didn't want to get all sweated up, so I wanted to make a quick hike, but not kill ourselves. And I wanted to be there at sunup, at 6:30 when legal shooting started. Or whenever it is right around that time. I want to be there. And so we ended up being a half hour late leaving, which is fine. Ended up turning out fine, obviously.
Yeah.
But we just hiked and covered ground, got up there, and we got to where we camped in 2017, where our campsite was, looking up into that basin where we shot the deer in 17.
Didn't Brian kill one at camp in 19?
No, in 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Brian. So that was on the other side where Tard and AJ were at that camp.
Okay.
Which.
Oh, so they didn't camp with you initially?
No, we camped
okay.
separate, and then we ended up, after I shot my deer, all that, we all ended up going over there to spend the last 3 days with them.
Okay.
So Chris and I get up to the spot where we were camped the last time. There's a big meadow, and things start to open up a little bit, so the light's better. So at that point, we're still hunting and just kind of poking through the timber, ultimately trying to get to where we're up at that side hill where we can see what's going on, where we had shot the deer in 17.
Did you want to get up on the side hill or just be where you could watch
I just wanted
it?
to get to like literally right where we shot the deer in 17.
Gotcha.
I just wanted to get there to just see if because there's a couple of campsites that we know that in the past there's been hunters there, and we wanted to see what the deer were doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's, we're making good time, not bumping nothing, didn't see any game, perfect crisp morning, hardly any wind, nothing. We get right to, we're climbing, getting right up to about where this bench is. The hiking trail goes up, and the hiking trail eventually ends up going up and over the pass over to where the other guy's camp is.
Okay.
But as you go up this trail, there's a bench, and the bench it's like elevated above the trail. I guess the best way to explain it, this bench kind of comes across. The trail works its way, angles up it. Trail gets up on the bench, and then the trail works its way off towards the pass, and then you do zigzags and switchbacks all the way up to the pass. But then once you're on that bench, the bench goes right straight up into just a wide open side of the mountain with some sparse pines, but it's just epic alpine grass. Like it's a north-facing slope, so it doesn't really get a ton of the sun.
Yeah.
So the grass is great, and like this is exactly where they were the last time. Don't you know, Chris and I we're sneaking up this path. I told him stay like 20, 30 feet behind me, because if something happens, if I see something, and I don't want you to be like in my hip pocket and we got two people like stuck naked in the wide open. So he's back a little bit, and I get to the point where I can see.
You're up on the bench, you mean?
No, I'm working. So
But
like
you're working
envision
your
the
way
trail
up.
is working its way up the bench, but you're like cut in. It's just like hunting a camp.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're using the elevation to your advantage to see before the animals could see you, right?
Right.
So I get to a point where I can see up onto that side hill, and I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me! I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There's three deer, good sized bodies. It's 200 yards away, 150, 200. Well, it was ultimately the shot ended up being 165, so it was probably around 175, 180 yards. Plain as day deer. I'm like, oh my God. So I just look back at Chris, get down, deer right there. So he gets down, I get down to a knee, put my gun down, pull my binoculars up, and kind of stand up so I can see a little better. And I just immediately put horns on him. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
On all of them, or just
on all of them. Yeah.
Oh, really?
They were all together. Well, two of them were fighting, and the other one was, so the two smaller bucks were fighting.
Yeah.
The buck that I ended up killing was right there with them, but he was not interested in tasseling. So it just, I mean, it all had it. I mean, if there was a stopwatch, it had to have all happened within. I don't even know if it could have been 2 minutes. It all
Really?
just happened that quickly.
Wow.
Because I seen the deer, knew they were bucks, dropped my pack, took my hat off because I didn't want my hat impeding with my scope. Sometimes I feel like it gets, if you're at a different angle.
Yep.
So took my hat off and I put my hood up, my mask up, had the Ninja hoodie on from Origin. So I get my face all covered because I'm gonna come up,
You're gonna pop up on
I
that.
seen a rock. As it all happened, I analyze a spot, and I'm like, I want to get to that rock, and I think I can with no issue because of the way the topography is getting up to it, and the deer should never see me. So I drop all my stuff, and I crawl up to that rock. No worse for the wear, nobody sees me, and I get situated, and I pull my rangefinder out, and I'm ranging them. It's like a 165. I'm like, this is freaking perfect because my gun's 0 to 2. Like at this point, just freaking put it in the middle and shoot. I have the confidence, everything's good, and so I get in to the site and I'm excited and things are, scope's moving a little bit and I had the safety off and Chris is like, whoa, he's like, relax. Because he's like 10, 15 feet away. And, so I freaking put the safety on and I take a deep breath and I pull my legs up.
Yeah.
So I was kind of prone and I didn't have real good base. So I ended up kind of like almost like cross leg Indian style, like not full Indian, but you know what I'm saying? Like legs to my side, but got him up underneath me.
Tuck up underneath and lean on the rock.
Yeah, and I get on the rock, and at this point, it's like, what, you look back at it, and it's like maybe I could have taken my time a little more, but it's like, why? It's like they're there.
Yeah.
I know I'm shooting you. I'm not questioning whether I'm going to shoot this deer or not. This is the one. I'm going to shoot him right now.
Before somebody else comes over the pass.
What, to anything? Is there another deer over here to my left that I don't see that's going to see me move and spook and blow him out? Like, I'm not messing around. I'm killing this deer right now. Like, that was my mindset. I just didn't even
take him.
I didn't analyze his rack. All I knew was I seen him, and I'm like, that's big enough for me. Like, he's a nice deer.
Gator hunting guy be like, kill him, Troy.
Shoot him.
Shoot him, Troy.
Yeah. So it was perfect because he's up above me and he's angled quartering away, and I just put it.
Nice.
I mean, I got this massive whole side of him to shoot at, and I just put it. I say I'm aiming off shoulder, but you're just like, it just takes over from there. I just pointing and shooting basically.
Yeah.
But in the theory, I'm trying to hit his offside shoulder.
Right.
And I got the whole brisket to shoot at, so I shot and he took it, and just you could tell like I don't know if I was in the scope or just watching. I don't remember how I was watching him, but you see him just buck up and he just kind of like ate it. He just like took the shot, and he didn't not like sometimes you shoot a whitetail and they just freaking take off running. Like he just like he just ate it, And I don't know if that's a good description, but he was rocked, and he jumped up and kind of like hunched, and I rack another round. I come back down the scope. I'm going to shoot him again. And I see his legs just starting to do the Gumby, and I'm like, and I lost it. I just freaked because I've been dreaming of this, to rifle hunt this spot. And it all just happened so fast.
Unbelievable.
And safety's off. I'm not even watching the deer anymore. And Chris is there, and I freaking run over and I tackle him, and I'm just freaking, we're punching at each other, and I'm like hitting him like he's a freaking giant. I'm just like, it was amazing. Like some of the, I don't know if I've ever felt that excited shooting a deer because it's like, it takes so much to get there.
Yeah.
It's just the years of thinking about it, the years of going in there, and we've hunted that area. We know where they hang. We know what they do.
Now you were like, I saw, I don't know, Onyx track or something, but you were like 9.35 miles.
Yeah, it's as far in there as you can go.
It's like that's a long ways.
Yeah, and it's just like you're in freaking God's country. It's just 11,000 feet. Like, I don't even know.
Words can't describe, can they? Yeah.
And I'm there with. And it's funny because, like, Chris and I, we grew up together. We're best friends. College together, high school, worked together. Almost every job we've had until recent with him going off on real estate on his own. Like, everything we've done has been together.
Yeah.
Bills fans, season tickets.
Since you were in middle school.
Freaking everything.
Everything.
He might as well be a brother. It's like Jimmy, him, and I, we did everything together. And so, like, the emotions come out. And it's like, and he's just a spectator, but he watched the whole thing through his binos.
video
it was
of
just amazing. Yeah. So I got a video on my. I haven't posted them or anything, but I took a video after I shot and we killed him and stuff. Like I took like a little recap video.
Yeah.
I actually forgot that I had it, but it's like, I mean, I'm like right now I'm telling the story. I'm like shaking. It just was so exciting. But if this makes sense to anybody, it's like all of a sudden I'm sitting there with this deer on the side of the mountain. I'm like, it's over.
Just like that.
I'm like, it's over. Like
almost before it began. Right? I mean, you're just going up there to sit and see what's going on, and then boom, it's game over.
It's
done.
over.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it's 6:55 and
yeah.
It's the first morning we actually hunted. What do I do now? It's
Yeah.
like, the whole time I'm talking smack to everybody. Well, what are we going to do when Brian and I tag out in like the first day?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Like, I'm going to sit around for a week and wait for everybody to be done hunting, Like, that's just like I'm talking shit, and it's like it's over.
Crazy.
Okay. So, I mean.
Did you and Chris quarter it and dress it and bring it down yourselves, or the other guys?
No, I messaged everybody on the inReach and let everyone know that we shot one and stuff, but him and I, it was cool. Like, he's never done that before, and
So for you guys to be able to do that together, that's pretty cool.
And there was no rush, and the sun never really came up and over, so it never got hot, and so like there was no like concern about getting the meat. Actually, right before we finished, the sun came out right as we were finishing, and it was like, shit, we got to get this meat in the shade. So we got it in the shade, and then we're looking down to the northwest or to the west and northwest, and there was supposed to be some weather coming in that day, and sure as shit, freaking storm blows in. So it rained on us the whole way back to camp, but at that point, who gives a shit?
Right,
it's
who
like,
cares?
whatever.
Yeah. Were you able to bring it all out to Tuya in one trip?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the deer aren't bad. I don't know. I have no idea what the weight was on any of it, but it wasn't anything not handled. It's nothing like
Did you bone out the rear quarters and stuff?
No, just left it all bone in.
Wow,
it's just, I don't know.
Well, it's easier to handle.
It's easier to handle, and I personally believe it's better for the quality of the meat, because the meat, it doesn't get all balled up.
Yeah, you say they say if you take it off when it riggers, it shrinks. It's just like it's better to leave it intact. With the
I mean, that meat, butchering that a week later at home, it was freaking gorgeous.
Did you take it? You hiked it out, right? Did you take it to a cooler or get it froze or something? Or?
Yeah, so we ended up hiking it out. We hiked it back to camp, and then we just basically hung. By the time we got back to camp, it was noon.
Hang it in the trees? So,
like it was highs in the 50s during the day, and we were right by the stream, so we put it right down by the stream in the dark timber, and it's like the air is constantly moving. The meat was cold, it was good.
Good. How cold was it at night?
It really didn't get that cold this year. It was in the 30s, no doubt, every night. We had maybe a couple nights that it frosted a little bit, but it was not bad. This year, the weather was questionable, but it was outstanding. Yeah. So like we were getting rain every day, and so we basically ended up Monday. That was Sunday. Monday, Chris and I packed the meat. Monday was a marathon day. Chris and I packed the meat out. So it's a 4-mile hike out. Drove an hour to the taxidermist, gave him the head, the meat. Then drove an hour back, hiked 4 miles back in, got to camp. It was like 4:15. No, it was like 3:15. We got back to camp, and I had talked to the guys, and they really wanted us to come over the pass and come over them to camp, and that was Monday night. The Bills were playing their first game of the year. They had cell service on that side, so we're like, we could go over there. I've got all the meat. We went to the store when we were out and got potatoes and vegetables and all this stuff. So it's like we could go over there and have a meal as a group and cook up some tenderloin and like watch the Bills game. So on our walk back in, Chris and I, it was hot and we were sweating, and Chris was like redlining. Like we were running an hour and a half late to come back in. We had told Brian we had no cell service, so we told Brian we'll be back in by 1. Well, we were an hour and a half behind. By the time we got to the trailhead, it was 1 o'clock. Yeah. So Chris is like, how quick can we do this? I'm like, and it's a climb. Like you're climbing 1,500 feet elevation going in 4 miles. Yeah. I'm like, we can do this in an hour and a half. And that's basically just put your head down and just, you are humping. Yeah. So we did it. And don't we get like half a mile from camp and a storm blows in and we're wearing shorts and t-shirts because felt like it was 70 in the sun. Yeah. And the temperature had to have dropped. It dropped like a rock, like it always does. Yeah. Storm blows over, and it poured rain, like and it was sleet
Oh, jeez.
And I was, freezing. Like, I soaked to the bone, frozen cold. And it's like, I walk into camp and Brian's sitting there and he's pissed because, it's like, because we wanted to break down camp.
Right.
And it's like everything's soaking wet now.
Right.
And it's like, and it's already freaking 3 o'clock. And you're like, shit. Get back to camp. The tarp's up. So you get underneath the tarp and I'm stripping down my clothes to get my wet stuff off and throwing some puffy stuff on to warm up. And it's like, God darn it. But we ended up breaking down camp.
You did.
We did.
Anyway, yeah.
Because of course, the storm blows over and the sun's right back out and it's fine.
Yep.
It's like, let's do this, boys. So we hike over. We break down camp and we make the hike over. And that was a freaking.
Was Herm still with you then?
No, he left.
Okay.
He left midday there. Sunday, he had some real estate stuff to do, and had to get out because he had no cell service and he was working a couple big deals. He's like, I have to get out by Monday to get on touch. So we ended up that hike out was up and over was a freaking grind. Like our packs were still fairly heavy, and it was we had already done 8.5 miles, and 9 miles that day, and then you're gonna do another 6 to go up and over a pass. 5 or 6 to go up and over a pass, and you're gaining, a couple thousand feet elevation. It was just, it was a rough. Yeah. So we got to camp, and it was like, we got up and over, got down to camp, and it was like 7:15. It was starting to get dark. Yeah. So like we're rushing to set our tents up and stuff, and we ended up having our meal that night and everything, but like we were whooped. Like Chris didn't leave camp on Tuesday. He stayed there and just hung out at camp all day. Yeah. And Brian and I hunted. We seen elk. We seen deer. Just couldn't close the gap for him.
You see any bull elk?
Yeah, I seen a couple different days. I seen 2 different groups of bulls or not groups of bulls. I seen groups of cows and group of elk with some
cows and bulls. Yeah,
there was not a ton, but the basin that we were hunting in, where we have historically, like the elk were just not there. So like Tard was pretty bummed because there was nothing for him to chase around.
Yeah,
there's nothing.
And he's good at it.
He's good. He shot the bull in there last year. He shot the bull in there in 19. Like. It's just they're not there. They're not there. Yeah. So he basically just hung around camp. So, where are we at time wise?
We should be looking to
wrap her up.
Here.
Okay, so couple quick tail enders on this whole from the hunt. So, talking about Brian shooting a deer in camp. So AJ Sunday, sorry AJ, but AJ missed twice on Sunday.
Oh, did he really?
It was a group of bucks, and he missed, and then went for a follow-up shot, and then. Had a spike behind him that he didn't see, and the spike seen him as he was getting ready, as he was doing stuff, and then he finally blew. AJ's like, the freaking deer blew at the second that I went to pull the trigger, and he freaking jerked the trigger because the deer spooked him, and he missed the shot. Yeah. So it's classic AJ.
Didn't that happen to you a couple years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I missed. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh God, yes. Especially
I missed.
You're shooting iron sights, muzzle loader.
Yeah, open sights, muzzle. Loose powder. So you're dealing with the elements. You're dealing with everything. And AJ, we've all done it. I'm not going to sit here and say I've had a horseshoe crammed the right way up the last few years, but I mean, I've been there. I've been missing, and it will happen again. So that evening, Monday night, AJ's out, sitting in the meadows trying to get into the deer. So Tard's staying back at camp, getting the fire good and warm, so we have some good coals to cook the meat that night. We walk into camp, and Tard's just got this huge grin. He's happy to see us. It's like, it's just fun being in camp together.
You and
me and Chris and Brian.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, you guys got to see this. So in camp, he packs in an American flag. So there's a big American flag hanging from the trees.
Oh,
and
he is awesome.
And so he's standing there tending the fire, and his tent is down below the fire, and AJ's tent's right to the right of the fire. And he's standing there tending the fire, watching down the hill. Doesn't this gorgeous buck about the caliber of mine walks into camp, and he's standing behind the log behind Tard's tent. Tard's tent's like up against a big down pine tree. There's like a little hole there, so he's got his tent in there, and the buck is standing behind it. American flag, AJ's tent, Tard's tent.
Buck right there.
Shooter buck. Broadside. Just standing there. Tard's got his phone out, videotaping it.
My God.
AJ comes back, and Tard's like,
look what was at camp.
Because Brian shot one, not literally in camp, but like across the trail, like 100 yards from the tents.
It was right there.
In 2021.
I remember that.
Struggled all week, didn't see deer. Second to last morning, like, shoots one basically in the yard of camp. AJ that same year, 21, he wasn't carrying his gun around, and he went to go get water at the stream, a couple 100 yards away, comes back to camp, and there's a buck standing in camp. It's like, carry your gun. It's like,
keep your gun with
you. Don't need to go anywhere, apparently. Like, you can just, this spot is just good,
That's awesome.
I walked around it Tuesday during the afternoon. I was like, we were all kind of having a good time and starting to kind of feel like we were going to leave on Wednesday after the morning hunt because there was supposed to be weather blowing in. So I'm like, we're going to listen. I go, we're going to do what we know how to do best. I don't have a tag, I'm like, we're doing a deer drive. So I'm like, I'm going to go up on the side of that mountain, and I'm going to go around. I'm going to go up to all the nasty shit where I think the deer are bedded, and I'm going to push that whole freaking side hill down. And you boys better be ready because the deer are coming, And so there was no animals seen, but I saw all sorts of sign. Yeah, so like it was really good to take that walk and to see where some things were.
Scouting mission for you.
But it was funny. I'm like, everybody was getting a little bit down because like, I shoot that deer on Sunday, and nobody had really had any opportunities since AJ had missed Sunday. There was no elk around. So morale was a little bit down in camp, and I'm like, we're doing a deer drive. I was like, let's go, Lawrence. We're going freaking pushing.
Going old school.
Yeah. So it was awesome. We did that, and then Tuesday night, to close out the story of Colorado, Tuesday night, we all kind of went out and glassed to try to spot some stuff up for AJ. And I go to the area that I like to go in this basin to go look. I love this side of the mountain. I've seen, it's the first place I ever saw deer in here, and there's always deer over there when we're in there. Generally speaking, there's deer over there. So I'm glassing. AJ's to my left. We're hunting maybe 500-600 yards apart. He's looking downhill. I'm watching to the right, watching this side of the mountain. Right after the sun goes down, out starts moving some deer, and there was 3 bucks together. One of them was I'm probably 1,200 yards away, 1,300 yards away, if not more. But I can put horns on them, and I can tell that, they're decent deer.
Yeah.
I watched them go up into the high, up above tree line, and they were feeding up in this, looks like a wet area. And come back to camp after dark, and I told AJ, I'm like, I feel really good about that area over there. I go, let's me and you tomorrow morning. This is the last hunt before we get out of here. I'm like, come with me. I go, let's see if we can get in between these deer when they go back to bed. Of course, like you hope this is all going to work. Like you're confident about it.
Sure.
But, so we go over there the next morning at sunup. We're at a spot where we can see we're down low where the deer would be working down towards the bed. We're down below, but I can still see. I knew this kind of area because I've been over there before. I knew I could see the area where I'd seen the deer the night before.
Mm-hmm.
So we get over there, sure enough, like freaking right away, like there they are. There's 6 of them now. There was 3 the night before. I'm like, beautiful. And they're up high. Thermals are pulling down. Sun's not going to come over for an hour and a half, 2 hours to come over the mountain to really start warming things up. So we're looking at things, and I'm watching where the deer are going. I'm like, all right, I want you to go right here is what we're looking at the map. And I go, this is a spot where I seen the bucks come out of last night, right out of the point of these pines. And I go get in there and go sit down, and I'm going to watch these deer, and we don't have a way to communicate. So I'm like, they're either going to come to you or they're not. I go, by 9:30, I'm going to come to you. Don't go anywhere. You stay there. I go, I'll come to you. And if they don't go to your way, I'm going to see where they're going to go. They're going to go bed in some of these little patches over here, and we'll go put a move on them after they bed.
Right.
Always wanted to do that. Never had an opportunity. Right. So don't the deer just freaking read the script? I mean, they fed all the way across that mountain away from AJ. Not across the mountain, but they fed 500-600 yards away from him, and it seemed like they were going to go to the right. And AJ was to my left as I'm looking at the mountain. And don't they, as soon as it starts to be about 7:45, 8 o'clock, the sun starts to come over and it's pitching down the hill a little bit, don't they just turn and do a U and they start going back? And I kind of lost them. There's a bench up there. I lost them for a little while, and I'm like frantically like, oh my God, where the hell are they? Like I don't want, like, you want to see this whole thing happen, right?
Yeah.
Well, then they start appearing. And I'm like, okay, there they are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, all 6 bucks are still here. And they end up working their way across, and the biggest of the 6, he was hard-horned already, and he got out ahead of the other ones, and he was really on a mission to get back to the pines to bed. And so I'm watching him go across, and he's silhouetted at one point. I could tell he had decent rack on him, and his body was dramatically bigger than the others when they were all standing around
Really?
together.
So he was a real.
He was a nice, but he was bigger than the one I shot for
Wow.
sure. Just after seeing him silhouette, he's silhouetted on the side of the mountain with the sun had come out at this point, and he was out in the sun, and it was just a split second where he was standing still, silhouetted, and I'm like, holy fuck, that's a nice buck. And then he beelined, and he got down, and he is going straight at AJ.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, and so I'm watching, and I'm ranging with my rangefinder, 'cause I'm just curious how far we're talking. Like, I'm 800 yards away. And
Was that the new rangefinder?
yeah,
got from
that
Roman
rangefinder's
Company?
awesome, by the way. To give a plug to those guys, I know that you guys talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
That rangefinder's awesome.
Is it?
I've never had a nice rangefinder. That thing, it's got illuminated reticle, so if it's dark or low light, like you're not like, what does that say? Or it's like it is right there. And I know there's settings that I don't even really know how to use
Right,
yet.
you're not fully.
Because there is angle compensation and stuff.
Wow.
But you can hold it down. One of the things that I love about it is that you can hold the button on it and just range,
And scan.
and it's constantly changing.
Constantly reading?
Yeah,
Wow.
which is very nice. So AJ's like 800 yards away, and I'm watching these deer, and this buck is and he gets to the finger of pines, and the buck goes in, disappears, and I'm like,
Where's the shot, right?
shoot. And I hear this, it had to be like 15 or 20 seconds. I hear this, like, and I'm like, is that a shot? I think it came from there. Like, so, and then nothing. I don't see the deer. I don't see anything. And then over the next 45 minutes, because the game plan is still, I'm going to go there at 9:30. So over the next 45 minutes or so, the other deer are working their way across the mountain, and they all spook and go back, and they like run by me. I took video of them. They're running by me, not close, but within 100 yards. They're just
Spooked
like,
from that noise.
no, like they just like were getting over that way, and they spooked. I'm like, that deer's dead. I go, AJ killed that deer, and he's over there with it or something. And those deer are trying to go in there, and they see him, and they spooked.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the hell I'm gonna find when I go over there. But I'm like, he did it, So I go over and I walk up this area, and I get up to where I figure he should have been, and where I seen the deer go in, and I don't see him. So I start like whistling, like doing the old,
Yeah, the old Harvey
and
whistle.
because I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he like comes out of the timber, and like it's like they're pine trees, but out there, like you've been out there, it's just like it's just darker than
For some
normal,
reason,
whatever.
it's just like super dark in there.
And he just comes out, and it was cold that morning. It was probably in like the low 30s. And, he hadn't been in the sun the whole time, and he's sitting in the pines just waiting for these deer that he can't see to maybe come. So he's just like, and so he had his hood up, and it's freaking like tied around his face, and his eyes were like his freaking biggest saucers. And I'm like, what happened? I'm like whispering. He's like trying to gesture. I'm like, I'll come there. So I like walk over to him. We go into the timber, and he's like, my freaking gun. My gun misfired twice. So his powder must have gotten wet in those rainstorms. And he shot his first one, sounded like it had because of the noise, it must have had a little bit of a burn, but it didn't even move the bullet hardly.
The gun stayed
Bullet's
loaded.
still in, yeah. And he put another primer in,
Yeah.
and tried to shoot that. Nothing happened. So then what ended up happening with those other deer running away, that buck just walked off. He didn't spook or nothing. He just went up to the bench above and just probably just kept going. And the other deer kept coming, and the freaking, he's sitting there and he had to, you don't have like tools with you and stuff really. Right. So, and his ramrod wasn't long enough to push it all the way through the barrel to knock the bullet and the powder out. So he's sitting there with his gun on his lap, trying, like, hands are probably numb. He's probably all fired up from what just happened. Yeah. Trying to dig his powder out with his knife. Freaking pork. I felt so bad for him because I know what it's like. Like, you have a deer like that standing in front of you broadside. It was a 70-yard broadside shot. Deer had no clue. It was almost level, like it wasn't like some crazy angle it was
just perfect.
Yeah. So we ended up, I gave him a hug. I'm like, it's all right, buddy. Like, it's going to be all right.
Shit happens.
Yeah. And we ended up, I'm glad, so we spent a little time there, and we ended up building a really nice blind out of deadfall and stuff.
Something you can go back to.
Yeah. There was like a clump of trees that had, it was like 3 trees.
Because they'll continue to pass through
that area. It's ridiculous. You go into those strips of pines where he was there. It's super steep, and it's like there's an avalanche chutes on 3 sides of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's Avalanche Chute, Pine Tree Strip, Avalanche Chute, Pine Tree Strip, and those strips of pines are it's deer shit, elk shit. They just
Loaded
live in
with
there.
it, yeah.
It's nuts. The hiking trail is like a mile and a half, 2 miles away.
Perfect.
So I think those deer, the deer and elk, they just feed in that area and they just
then
lay
they
down.
get back over there. Yep.
So we'll hunt that again someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quite the hunt.
Poor
It just
AJ.
it happened so fast. The whole trip. It's like you come home and
But
it's
you
just
know,
like,
it was great you killed one, right?
Yeah.
But you guys also got on him. Because AJ had 3 shots,
Right.
four if you count the second misfire. But the point is, you guys did good to get up in there and get on him.
absolutely, yeah.
And you saw animals and everything. So.
Yeah, there's nothing. I couldn't have asked for anything any better. We had a great time.
That's awesome.
Everybody had fun. Lots of laughs, lots of memories. It's just I don't even really feel like I fully decompressed from it all. So came home, made a whole bunch of summer sausage. I still got about 10 pounds of burger left from them.
Wow.
And then the cuts, I got all the cuts and whatnot yet. But I made a ton of summer sausage and
That's awesome.
just freaking living the dream.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
You've come a long way since the days of the squirrel slam back in 2000.
Not being scared to gut my own deer and probably intentionally missing every deer I shot at with my bow when I was young.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what happened. It was 4 yards away, Billy. How the hell did you miss it? It's awesome.
No, but it is something though. It's like you'll see it someday, probably with Bill Dan. But to introduce your kids and take them. I remember when you were 5 years old, we went up by the South Tree Stand. There was a food plot, and that would be the family stand food plot now. But there was no food plot there at the time, and there was a tree down. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I had you and Jimmy,
Yeah.
and we crawled in that treetop, and I cleared out all the leaves, and I had candy, and I had some little, like, matchbox dump trucks and stuff, and we're playing. We saw a fox, and then this deer was coming. And I thought it'd be cool to kill a deer with the boys with me, so I'm shooting it. I'm shooting this buck. He's walking right by the end of the tree. It was a 4-pointer or something. And you remember? I
was tugging at your leg, telling you that
tugging
there's
my
a
leg,
bigger
like,
one.
Dad. And the deer's like, what's that noise in there? I'm like, stop it. But finally the deer spooks. I let down. I'm like, Billy, what are you doing? He's like, well, I thought you'd rather shoot that one. There's this great big buck coming. Remember that?
Yeah, and that didn't work out.
Yeah. But you know what?
I know.
It's and it's fun to watch as a father, to see
Big
it.
Al's saying it's time.
It's time.
I know. You're freaking.
So.
You give. I said we were going to do 25 minutes, and what are we
It's
at?
not, but we were 25 minutes just shooting a bull before we started. We're at
Oh,
hour
1
4.
hour. Jesus. Oh, my God.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All
There's,
right.
there's lots more we could talk
We're
about.
gonna-
But thank you for the recap. Congratulations on a great hunt. So glad Chris got to go with you on that.
That was awesome.
And we need to wrap it up, folks, and head off to Wellsville.
Yeah,
So,
we got to go feed them.
yeah, we're going to be feeding them down
Yeah,
there.
I'm excited to meet Kip. And
Yeah, I hope to get him on the podcast.
yeah, I brought my portable recorder, so I'm gonna set it up, try to record it. So we'll share. Hopefully, be able to share that with everybody.
Sounds good.
Okay, see ya.
All right,
Thanks.
keep feeding them.
Feed 'em. Thanks for listening.